Hey guys, we're back at the studio with Ali TalksTech, and today I have a super interesting gentleman, somebody a lot of you may know, maybe just in football, but I really wanted to tell his tech story today. Mr. Nick Mwendwa. Nick,
yes.
How are you, sir?
Very well, my friend. How
You're
are you?
good?
I'm very well.
So, Nick, I always start my conversations with asking my guests to talk about themselves, personal, professional, and who really Nick is. So for me today, I want to ask you one question, which will start your conversation. Nick, in the tech space, we've known you as the guy who built one of the most successful agency banking platforms for banks like KCB. So, Nick, from tech to football to crypto tech, what a pivot.
No.
What's up with that? Talk to us.
I wouldn't say it's a pivot.
Okay.
If someone knows me from when I was young,
yes,
they know that football has been in me. So that is something that is the way you wear shoes and go. You never walk around without shoes.
Yes.
For me, and you don't do it because it's someone tells you to do it.
Yes.
You just do it. But tech is probably even more part of me. And for many years, since I was 18, 20.
Okay.
And so, if you look for Nick, you will find Nick in between those two goalposts. So
I love the analogy of football.
In between these two goalposts, one half of the pitch.
Yes.
A bigger half of the pitch will be tech, because that's what drives us. That's what we build. That's where we build. That's where we do things from. I think the passion gets expressed visibly by many in football, but it's actually incubated and built around tech, because that's what we know how to do. So that's many years. I learned tech, I'd say by accident, because I grew up. My parents are teachers.
Okay.
Both teachers. And so I grew up in a home of stickler to rules in school.
Tell me about it. My mom was a teacher.
Yes, and that's what they know.
Yes.
And that's what they knew how to do. And I left home and went to explore a world that they didn't know about, and I had to learn about, and that's how I came to tech. And so when I began to explore college, I went to Uchumi Supermarkets Limited, just around 99, thereabouts.
You started your career at Uchumi?
At Uchumi Supermarkets. So I went to school. I used to go to school. Then I go college. Then I go to Uchumi. But then at Uchumi, which I regard as the organization that made me learn a lot of the base that I laid in place.
Yes.
I met people just around when that organization was also changing into tech and changing to... so I was lucky to be among the first tech people there. And so I learned from screwing desktops onto desks to installing Windows, to teaching people how to send emails, to installing ERP systems in a period of time that then grew me to understand what tech is.
Okay.
And because Uchumi was in payments, naturally then
you grew into payments.
And I would say that my life has been tech payments and fintech solutions for all those years.
Yes.
So when I worked, I got known for that, and everybody would call me for that, and I became to bid for that. That is how I grew in tech. And so later on, I went to work in private tech companies, 2 of them, and then later on is when I decided, there is so much space. There is so much that's required.
Yes.
So I could actually, at 28, at around 27, could go and do this
Yourself.
myself, because I could see so much space, so much that needed to be done, but there was no one to do. And in the beginning, it was that period when SACCOs were beginning to install core banking systems and SMS systems to query your balance, to do that. That was a time that was very unique.
It was.
The SACCOs didn't have core banking systems. They worked manually for very long. It came a time, sometime from 2006 to around 2010, when they were really going, and each one of them was acquiring a core banking system, and then needed a way in which customers would interact
with them.
Yes, because banks were already going with core banking systems.
Correct.
So the SACCOs needed to. So as they were doing that, then we realized that a lot of the SACCOs also then needed payment channels.
Of course.
And because we're builders of payment channels, that's how we went into it. And I'll tell you that our first client, I'll never forget, is a SACCO that I won't say the name. And they bought from us an end-to-end system, but the most important component is that they wanted a biometric ATM.
A SACCO.
They wanted a biometric ATM.
Okay.
Just outside their banking hall. And they asked, can you supply all these things you said?
Yes.
But we want a card to withdraw from an ATM that is biometric. I hadn't come across one at that time.
Yes.
But I said we can do it. And so we went back in the office, and everybody sat there looking at me.
Are you crazy?
That I said we're going to deliver a biometric ATM. And we went all the way to India. And worked on a custom ATM from a company in India.
From scratch?
They had ATMs.
Okay, but they had to be...
added the biometric component on them, on the ATM.
So they had to be customized for
Yes, and it was 500 kg, I'll never forget, that ATM.
500 kg.
So heavy. So 2 ATMs, we shipped them in, we connected them for the SACCO, and they worked perfectly.
Wow.
It was our first business that we did.
Wow.
$220,000, I'll never forget, for the entire suite. So we issued cards for them. We installed the back end, and we connected. They're using ERP that time. The most common one among them was Navision.
Navision from Microsoft.
Yes. So we connected Navision. You know the way Navision works, not a core banking as such. So
it's not a core banking.
It's an ERP.
It's an ERP, yes.
And even that time, the way it was built as an ERP was more accounting than ERP per se. So we connected to it, and we could debit and credit the customer, and they would withdraw using their card. So they get issued a card, they go to the ATM, and they're very excited farmers. They put their finger. And when the money comes out, it's so exciting. And I remember I told somebody that, so long as it's within your domain and it can be done.
It can be done.
Never say that you cannot do it. So long as it's within your domain and technically it can be done, then your answer must be yes, we can do it. Even when you do not know exactly and haven't seen one. And I have done that.
That's a lesson.
I have done that. Richard Branson says that if somebody asks you if you can do this, and it's an area that you can research, you say, yes, I can do it.
I can do it.
You're going to spend the whole night and hours figuring how it's going to be done. And you're going to always find people who have done it. And Axis Technologies was a company we bought the ATM from. They were already having the biometric concept. I believe at that time no one had bought, but we committed.
So you came in at the right time.
We came in advance, and they put it together, sent engineers to us, and we deployed the first biometric ATM to these guys. It's amazing stuff.
What year was that?
That was 2008.
2008.
Yes. So we went off to Zimbabwe.
13 years ago.
Yes, we went off to Zimbabwe, and we also, interestingly, they had a problem. The inflation at that time was the big time for inflation.
Correct.
And, very interestingly, a bank, someone wanted to open a bank, and they needed to prove to the central bank what is it new they were going to bring to the market.
What's their value proposition?
Yes, because they are banks.
They are banks, yes.
Bank, Kingdom Bank.
Whatever,
what are you going to come and do? And our proposal was that they're going to issue a card which will enable customers to store change, because there was a serious problem of dollar change. You could not get your change. So the pricing of things was high.
Yes.
Because instead of charging you 1.68,
yes,
I'd charge you $2. Because
see.
I can't give you change.
Yes.
So the bank we went with, their proposal was they were going to solve the change problem.
So they'll store value of that change in the ATM.
Card.
In the card.
The card, and then you're going to go off on a POS device.
Yes.
And make a payment or draw your money from there. And that's how they got their license.
Wow.
That bank is today's Steward Bank of Zimbabwe.
Wow.
So they got their license from the
Based
proposal we put in. Remember, this proposal, because we knew payments, was not something we had done practically. But because we had implemented payment systems, we knew.
It was just an iteration.
It was an iteration, correct.
Yes.
So we issued that, and that bank
got their license.
They got their license, and they went on to become Steward Bank. Steward Bank
Zimbabwe.
In Zimbabwe is, I think, the largest bank today.
Wow.
Because they were acquired by Econet. And the rest.
Steward Bank is part of the Econet group.
Part of the Econet.
Super interesting. Very, very interesting.
Those are our first projects. And that's how we built a team. That's how we grew our expertise. That's how we understood. And a lot of our people stayed on for many years with us.
Okay.
13, 14 years to learn these things. But I would say that we became them champions in the area of fintech. And I'm normally careful, because when we say fintech, there are many different forms.
Fintech has quite a number of components. So obviously payments is a big component of fintech, but you have lending, you have blockchain now, which will come to have that conversation. You have blockchain, you have wealth tech, you have insure tech, you have reg tech. It's a lot. But payments still is a major component of fintech.
I think it's the major component.
It is.
I think it's the major component. So we have done that. We built solutions that have enabled banks to implement agent banking, especially, was very big.
Yeah, let's talk about agent banking. Agency banking has really become a major component of banking in Kenya, and it's spreading across Africa now.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that?
We made a proposal to one of the largest banks in 2012. And we said, you guys are using a phone to deliver this channel. A phone is not enough, because you need to use a card, since you have issued so many cards.
Yes.
2 million cards in the market. And so we went into a situation where the bank agreed with our proposal.
It was not a tender. It was a tender. Okay.
22 companies were involved.
Okay.
And I always say that we were a very young business.
Yes.
About 9 of us at the time when we went there. And young guys, 9 guys, not a lot of money going by. And we were competing with the likes of SAP.
Wow.
And the biggest of the biggest service providers were there.
Yes.
But the bank said, we don't want stories.
We want to see.
If you're in this tender, you come here, you set up, and you make your stuff work.
You show us.
You give us what works. So they were asking you to build it before you can do it, before you can be given the tender.
Wow.
The problem with that is that you expend your resources
Absolutely. Without
the work.
It's at risk.
9 out of 10 times you don't get the job.
It's at risk.
You don't get the job. We went in, we deployed, and we were the only ones who were able to deliver a working transaction to withdraw at an agent, to deposit at an agent, to pay school fees at an agent. We were the only ones able to do. We were about 4 guys in the last mile, and none of the other 3 could deliver a transaction because we literally went to live in that bank. We went to live there. We camped there. We lived there. We built it. Built the software, and that's how we got the job. And after that, then opened a lot of opportunities.
Homemade Kenyan software.
No. The one characteristic with our solutions is that we built them ourselves.
From ground up.
We built everything ourselves. We never have a single component built by anyone except the hardware. The servers, the devices, the ATMs are the only things we buy.
The software.
Every little component that runs the software is built by us. So we delivered that. Years later, that's about 30,000 agents that the bank was able to deploy. But out of that, we were then able to propose something that was coming up because Kenya was just going into county governments.
Correct.
And they needed to collect revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So we rolled out revenue collection for about 14 counties, cloud-based, using our components. If you go to the market, single business permits, all this kind of thing, they collect revenue using our components. Huge solution, cloud-driven, proper software as a service.
Business.
A kind of business. Of course, regional governments have their own challenges, but we really grew so much. Our first county was Kiambu.
Yes.
We really grew so much from that kind of installation and continue to become a going concern because now you're working every year and you have counties you have to support and you have people that have to
So that's
there.
Riverbank Solutions.
That's Riverbank Solutions. Let
me take you a little bit back. Why Riverbank? What's we talk about Riverbank. I mean, we talk about how people name companies, businesses, Google, Facebook, and stuff. But there's always a story behind that.
At that time, I actually didn't. I just wanted to do things.
Okay.
And in the beginning, at least that you don't think so much about some little things. If you're a builder, you think about getting it done. So it's my father, actually, when I told my father I was going to leave my job and go to build this thing.
How did that go?
He was, so you're telling me you're going to leave this nice paying job. At that time, you're earning 200,000 shillings, really. You're leaving and you're going to stop that and go start something you don't know about completely. And you're going to do this alone and you have no money. And he was really sad, and it's just that he couldn't do something to stop me. And then I went with him to some river that is near home, and where he used to do some things. And so he told me, then why don't you, because it has
if you have to do it,
and I'm the first person you've told me.
Yes.
Then why don't you call it Riverbank? And that is how the name stuck in my head. So when I went to register the business, that's how I called the company that in 2011.
Interesting.
That's how I called the company that. It's an interesting story because I didn't think about it so much.
Interesting.
But a lot of people take interest in why you call it that. But for me, it was, the name at that time wasn't so important. I know some people are so careful in the beginning to name. It is later in my business life that I name things with meaning. With some confluence, and that's what you'd notice.
Okay. Interesting. So Riverbank today is one of the major players in payments and agency banking and stuff like that.
Yes.
Then now you are moving into a new venture.
Yes.
Swerri.
Yes.
Crypto space.
Yes. So
Uchoki, boss.
So for many, we are payments people.
Yes.
We deploy solutions around payments.
Correct.
and we built this either on the phone, on a device, on the web, or somewhere. But we think about a payment all the time.
Yes.
And in 2017, one of my employees came and said, Nick, why don't we... he was proposing we go into Bitcoin. And for him, he meant, why don't we acquire Bitcoin, hodl it, and wait for it to go up?
Yes, why don't we buy Bitcoin?
Young guy, 22, I think. And I looked at him and said, why would you bother about crypto? It's going to die anyway.
That's 2017.
Beginning 2017. So I didn't pay attention to it. So I let it be. But later, 3 years later, in 2021, I began to listen to the more noises coming from crypto. And I got influenced by the concept around cryptocurrencies.
Yes.
The concept itself of creating wealth away from centralization.
Yes.
Away from intermediation.
Yes.
And that caught my attention.
So for my viewers who may still not understand what this whole space is all about, before we go into crypto, let's talk a little bit about that disintermediation, decentralization, and how crypto is playing an interesting role in that space, and where are we moving?
So blockchain is the core technology that came up with cryptocurrencies.
Correct.
But blockchain technology itself, they say, is gonna explode and play a role in every single jurisdiction.
Yes.
And I'll give you an example because, so blockchain, in the early 90s, the internet showed up.
Correct.
And the story I keep giving that I have listened to several times is Jeff Bezos opening Amazon and telling people that he's going to sell books in 1994 on the internet. The internet which was at its
infancy.
And so he had to explain not about selling books on the internet, but what the internet was. First and foremost, for you to appreciate that I'm going to have a business on the internet, what is the internet?
Yes.
That was Web 1.0.
Correct.
Which was web that we read from.
Yes.
Just pages hosted that we read from. Still big. Yahoo.
Yes.
Still big.
Correct.
But then Web 2.0, the centralization and building of applications on top. Of that infrastructure.
Correct.
On the TCP protocol.
Yes.
Which allowed you to have databases.
Yes.
So that then you could build the next wave of tech.
Yes.
And so Microsoft, Google, and Facebook.
Yes.
The big tech we know of was built around Web 2.0.
Correct.
At that time, and then became giants, but became centralized giants whose norm we have to follow.
Yes.
Whose way of doing things we have to follow.
And whose power now is becoming an issue for governments.
That's why we've got. But then Web 3.0 was a way in which, after the 2008 financial issues,
collapse, yes.
Blockchain became the decentralized way in which we can move away from centralization of Web 2.0.
Correct.
So that this is a way in which many computers, many what you call nodes, store records in form of a ledger across many computers in the world in such a way that even if you remove one computer, the record is immutable.
Correct.
Meaning that you cannot delete it, you cannot remove it.
Yes.
And therefore, so long as you perform the transaction, it is transparent.
Yes.
Because it is immutable already.
Yes.
And therefore, everyone can see that Ali had 10 shillings and now he has withdrawn 6 shillings.
Yes.
If I care to bother to check, I can actually check and find that to be true. And because it is open and transparent and stored across many computers in the world,
You cannot delete it.
Yeah, became a game changer. And therefore, the first blockchain, then a lot of people, the people who began it, went to creating a currency. And in this case, a store of value currency in Bitcoin.
Yes.
Because of the frustrations around the financial crash of 2008, 2007.
Correct.
It has started earlier,
Yes.
but I think the 2007, 2008 gave it the fuel to go. And we've heard about the story of Bitcoin, whether it is many people or one person, Nakamoto,
whoever
whatever.
it is.
That is the most profound founder story.
Absolutely. Ever.
You will hear.
Yes.
And so after that, many more blockchains around cryptocurrencies
Have sprung up.
And Ethereum then came along.
Yes.
And with Ethereum created a blockchain. And I keep saying that Bitcoin is like your Nokia phone, the 3310.
Correct.
That had calls, messages, logs you couldn't change, but worked very well.
Yes.
Ethereum is like your Android phone or your iPhone, which
I love
gave
that
you
analogy.
an opportunity to create your own early application, which can disseminate our talk today to millions and millions of people, therefore giving you a chance to create your own giant that can even be bigger than Ethereum itself.
100%.
So with decentralized apps, what they call dApps, came a new opportunity for what has now been called decentralized finance.
Correct.
And decentralized finance is so interesting. It's a way in which financial transactions, those of us who've been in fintech, financial transactions are now being done without an intermediary, without a bank, without lawyers, and from anywhere you are. So
it's a game changer.
What I'd say is that if you're sitting in California, you're probably one of the most privileged, if you are. And you're sitting in Turkana, Kenya, you're probably one of the most underprivileged people in the world. So long as you have an internet connection,
you're good.
The opportunity the guy has in California
is the
same opportunity you have.
Profound.
So DeFi became that. And as I waded into it, I wondered why I didn't listen to this young man in 2017. And I still remember.
Is he still with you?
No, he left. He lost Bitcoin, I was told, and he left. But you know, some things happen for a reason. So
they do.
We then, from this base, found that DeFi is creating such opportunities that I'm afraid our banks, we make no mistake, the bank, for me, the banking industry will remain. There are things that DeFi will not do. They won't give mortgages anytime soon.
True.
In DeFi.
True.
But there are things that I'm going to give you examples of today that will change profoundly.
Tell us about those things.
Profoundly. And in my view, not in more than a year. They've already changed, but will change in a way that is life-changing in the next 1 year. So in DeFi, you are able to, on Ethereum now.
So for my viewers,
yes,
please remember, DeFi, that's decentralized finance.
And have a look at it. So now, what it's allowing someone to do is that you can trade. The way you give your money to the bank, and the bank uses your money to trade and increase its wealth and pays you some fee, some little fee.
Correct.
You can actually take your own money today, put it in a cryptocurrency, and trade yourself on your laptop with an internet connection where you're sitting, and have the same or higher benefits than the bank does with your money. Just think about that. It's unbelievable. That's one. Two is that you can lend your money to anyone in the world. Anyone in the world. Because what crypto does, it breaks all geographical barriers. All barriers that the human being has. And you know the story of Russia and Ukraine and crypto and what has happened. These are broken just by the whim of one transaction.
That's it.
And by a click. I think for some people who are used it to work in a certain way, it can really spin you around. But you can borrow and you can lend. Seated where you're sitting right now, so long as you have 1 Ethereum, 2 Ethereum today, right now, you can log on to Aave.com and you can lend or borrow and earn from that crypto that you have, seated right in your house. You've heard about the Great Resignation.
Correct. In the US during COVID.
And people have found ways. I was just talking to the gentleman earlier, and he was telling me how they pivoted from the magazine. Now they went online.
This is
and
my
this is change that is forced
Harry.
on you. Yes, change that's forced on you. So now that's what's happening. So we moved to say we built Swerri for 3 purposes.
But before you go to Swerri, I want to wallow a little bit on that issue on decentralized finance and how it is democratizing the financial services sector.
Yes.
And how it is breaking down barriers when it comes to intermediaries.
Yes.
Now, in this case, intermediaries are banks.
Yes.
Now, financial services inherently is one of the most heavily regulated area in our economic lives.
Yeah.
Globally, what do you think that the reaction will be from central bankers and established banks to this new phenomena?
So I have looked at this very closely.
Yes.
Because when you're creating something, you have to think, is there something that can happen
Correct.
to kill your entire dedication and investment?
Yes.
And what happened is that in the beginning, the skepticism around specifically Bitcoin
has been
immense.
high.
Immense. And the reaction from regulators was crazy. But the problem with it, there was no one to arrest. Because the network belongs to a community of people that you cannot find.
Yes.
And there are no names on blockchain. There are addresses. So when you go there, you don't know who this is. But there were a few players who saw, and that's why some countries really have a knack for seeing things.
Yes.
Some countries and some banks saw this light and supported these fellows. And so the backlash continued for a while.
Yes.
But the people in tech, those that invest in tech, went into it so fiercely.
Yes.
And because investment is being driven there,
yes,
over the last 6 years, I have looked at research. Banks and central banks are busy telling people, many of them don't touch.
Yet they're investing.
But in the back, JP Morgan is investing.
One of the biggest investors in crypto.
And I have a CEO saying, I don't know, this thing is not a proper currency.
So it's a case of if you can't beat them, join them.
There's that, but there's what you told me the other day, FOMO.
Yeah, FOMO, fear of
FOMO.
missing out.
Yes. And the thing is this, banks are investing heavily.
That's interesting.
In cryptos, in DeFi. And why? So let me give you examples. Today, if you're sending money from the US to Kenya, if you go on to a platform called Strike.
Yes.
Strike is a crypto platform built by some very interesting guys. Is that you put in your dollars there and they connect to the Bitcoin blockchain
platform.
They convert it to Bitcoin. Then they transport that to the other side, convert the blockchain into dollars, and you pick it. You as a customer never know that the underlying transport layer, or what I'll call transport layer, was Bitcoin. You just receive your dollars.
Wow.
And there's no bank
that is powerful.
That's involved. It's right on your phone. If you have a look at Strike, very interesting platform. So now, because blockchain is everywhere, in Korea, in Singapore,
everywhere,
in Brazil,
it's global.
It's one network.
It's global.
It's one network. That's what the internet is.
Yes.
So now, the banks, especially for pickup from money transfer services, my prediction is that you're not going to line up again.
100%. It's already starting to happen.
You're not going to line up again. You yourself have told me about, and maybe these are, you've told me about conversion of currency.
Yes, correct.
The rate you get around exchanges
absolutely.
for USD to KES.
USDT to your normal US, the banks can't compete.
They can't match.
They can't. They simply can't
match. And why,
match.
Ali? Because it belongs to a community of people that is growing. And everybody has the interest
absolutely
to make it better.
And of course, there's also the elephant in the room. The intermediary costs are being cut down dramatically.
They have not been cut down. They've been thrown away. They've been thrown away.
You're even being more ruthless than me.
They've been thrown away.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen is that now going forward, if you sit in the US and you want to send a few dollars back home, you do not need any more.
Absolutely.
To look for a player who's wiring that, and then somebody has to show up in front of an agent and say that I am Hussein Ali.
Absolutely.
And the sender has to pay and the receiver
and has to
pay.
confirm.
Those
are
they
gone.
will end. And I can tell you in the next 1 year, 2 years max, for me, where I see
Itaisha.
That's one area I can tell you will be an issue. Now,
as we say in Kenya, I'll tell you for free.
Yes. So I just give you one jurisdiction. Sending of money in the world in the next 5 years. One will no longer be wait for some days when a bank is closed.
Is open or closed.
That will die. Two will no longer be it's a transaction today, you will receive tomorrow. Those things we have lived with all our lives will end.
They will end.
They will end. Why? In DeFi, you transact at night, during the day, 24/7.
Instantaneously.
The platform is there. There is no bell that
So
rings.
there's no end of day.
There's no bell that rings at NYSC on Friday and people show up on Monday.
No.
That bell is not there. And I can tell you, I see a day when even stock exchanges now will be forced to live that life
100%.
where there's no closure.
100%.
There's no closure. Already there are stocks you can trade.
Yes.
Today, 24/7.
365.
But I'm seeing a time that's coming where the bell won't ring. There won't be a closing bell, there won't be an opening bell. Because there won't be an opening bell. It's perpetual. It's already happening in DeFi as I speak to you today. And I think, so around cryptos then, you have to talk, when you talk about DeFi, you have to talk about NFTs. And the craze that NFTs have brought.
So, spend 1 or 2 minutes to define NFT for my viewers.
I like to simplify because, at Swerri we say that we exist to simplify crypto.
Yes.
And NFTs is a non-fungible token, it's a fancy name.
Yes.
But really, it's a unique digital representation, I say, of anything.
Yes.
And the biggest example people are doing is that people who are in collectibles, like watches,
yes,
like art, they have now a way in which you can create your own unique art
form.
And you can represent it in a digital form in a way that it is unique, so that I can acquire it and believe that this is one copy of what Hussein Ali did. It's a Mona Lisa and it's one copy in digital form.
Wow.
What it's going to do is that things like land that belongs to Ali will become NFTs.
Interesting.
So that at Survey Kenya, there will be no green card anymore.
It's just an NFT.
There'll be no green card. There'll be an address on the blockchain where if you're selling this house, I just have to check and I will find that this house actually belongs
to Ali.
And that address is unique. And there won't be a story like somebody can copy it and recreate it and we can be two owners. That will end. Of course, that will happen when government joins. I think government will be the last to join maybe in 2035.
Can't argue with that.
When they do, things will be very different, and they will be forced to do that.
Fantastic.
So that's NFT. The other one, I have to talk about quickly two other things.
Yes.
Because when we talk about crypto,
That's
you
fine.
have to talk about
Proceed.
that's the metaverse,
The metaverse.
the virtual world,
Yes.
and this interview 1 year from now will not happen here. No,
It will not happen.
I won't have to come here.
It will happen in the metaverse.
It will happen virtually. I'll be at home, but we will meet in a virtual interview room.
Environment.
You will have set it yourself. These guys will still set it, and viewers will see me and you the way we are doing.
But it's the metaverse.
But you will be at home.
At home.
And I'll be at home. And therefore, Swerri will have an office and recruit a Japanese guy
In the metaverse.
in the metaverse, and he will be going to the Swerri office.
You're talking, brother.
So it's still very early in metaverse. And if you like joining things that are early, metaverse is one area that I can tell you that is early. So I like to ask people to have a look at Decentraland and Sandbox and these kind of things. People are actually becoming service providers
In
the metaverse. So you can become a
already.
plumber in Decentraland and you will be paid. Whenever
In crypto?
Yes. I am myself not in metaverse and building in metaverse, but I can tell you this is. And then there is.
So basically what you're saying is that, guys, please start looking. Usiwache kwa mataa.
So what I like to say, Ali, is if you don't do it for yourself and you have children,
Do it for them.
do it for them. Because what's going to happen, your child will catch up in 10 years and they will find the other child, next door neighbor,
Is ahead.
is already hodling and trading and in the metaverse and not registering companies at Sharia house anymore. So when your son will be waking up after university to go and try and become an entrepreneur, their next door neighbor
Is already there.
will be hosting their business virtually and recruiting in
People.
Korea without needing to go Sharia house, but having ways in which to pay their taxes. So I think that is what the picture I like to paint for people.
I love
That even
that.
if you don't like it, and if you have children, then you need to look at it.
need to
And
look
now,
at it.
because the problem with it, Ali, is that the crypto space is so, I'll call it elitist at this point, but it's coming down.
Yes.
But it's elitist in such a way that if you're not in finance or in tech, or you're not affluent yourself in a certain way, you are likely to miss it.
That's true.
Because they're building platforms first for developers.
That's true.
It's just now that we're beginning to build platforms for the guy on the street who didn't know about crypto. And mass adoption is on its way. In that cusp,
How long do you think that will take?
so
2 years?
me and
1
you
year?
have spoken about
We
one
have.
of the biggest exchanges,
Yes.
Binance. So we talk about Binance. 28.6 million people
On that platform.
on that platform,
Trading regularly.
trading regularly, happy to, many of them without jobs and taking that as their main job. I don't know if there's a research to do with that. Imagine Binance at 200 million users.
And you know what shocks me, and we're almost running out of time, but this conversation is so super interesting that I'm going to just take 10 to 15 more minutes.
Thank you.
So that we really
Right up into that.
and sort of unpack it for my viewers. The metaverse,
NFTs.
and all that. So
DeFi.
you had one more to talk about. Then we move
Yes.
to Swerri now.
Gamification. Crypto has changed incentives around playing games and what they're calling play to earn.
Yes.
So now you're playing games and you're incentivized. That kid who used to stay at home
Yes.
and used to annoy their parents.
Yes.
Because they're playing games all the time and they want to go to competitions. Now, they're actually earning a token whenever they play. They're being incentivized to play. So now, these kids, Elon was saying that we should
Elon
make
Musk.
education be like video games.
Correct.
So that they're interesting for our kids. I don't know if education can be like that. But look at the vision. How can we make our education be like games? And crypto has changed that. I am not in games myself. I am not in the Metaverse myself.
Yes.
I am not doing NFTs. But I can tell you that then I can speak about DeFi, which is how Swerri comes in to this conversation.
Tell us about Swerri now. And tell us your big, hairy, audacious goal for Swerri.
So in Africa, we have a few players in the crypto space.
Correct.
People building technology around crypto.
Correct.
A few that have raised already capital to build bigger things around. And mostly is Nigeria, South Africa.
Yes.
And now in Kenya. All right? So the first thing we need to do is to simplify crypto. When I speak here, I speak deliberately trying to simplify crypto.
Bring it down to everyone's level.
So that it's consumable for many. Because when it's consumable for many, then adoption rises and we'll all be happy.
100%.
So Swerri is about simplifying crypto. And how do we do that? By giving you a simple entry into crypto, allowing you to buy crypto through third parties, allowing you to send crypto to anyone who's your friend that has a phone and to an address, and allowing you to swap or convert your crypto. You will realize later...
Into fiat or whatever.
No, crypto to crypto.
Okay.
We're not dealing fiat ourselves.
You focus
We're not even in fiat
crypto
at
to
all.
crypto.
We are crypto people. There are people who know well how to deal with fiat. The regulation around fiat is not something we are interested. We are a decentralized platform. So we are a decentralized exchange. Buy, send, swap as the base. Then we are a decentralized protocol. And the interesting thing we are going to do is this. Today in crypto, you only borrow against what you have. So if you have 10 Bitcoin, you can only borrow
up to 10
Bitcoin or less. We want to bring a social aspect to crypto, a more African aspect to crypto, a more Asian aspect to crypto, a more credit union based kind of way in DeFi for crypto. So that if Ali wants to borrow and they have only 1 Bitcoin, but they need 5, I can guarantee Ali the other 4. And therefore they can borrow more than what they don't have. So Swerri circles, you will be able to create your friends and family, bring them together, and you'll be able, one, to contribute in order to take advantage of the opportunities in DeFi. Invest that little money or that little crypto you've come together with and put it in opportunities that will then generate revenue, real revenue for you. So that's the first thing.
Chamas on steroids.
Chamas. And you don't need, just like you join Facebook or Twitter, that's it. Bring together your friends like a Twitter space.
Yes.
And be able to take advantage of immediate opportunities arising in DeFi by taking that crypto and putting it in certain projects that you might want to do. That is one. 2 is then when you come together and put together some money, the economies of scale start to apply because now it's more than it was. That's how banks,
Correct.
That's how circles work. And I told you about my circle story earlier.
Yes,
it's coming to play now. So my mom and dad were teachers and most of the time didn't have money at the start of the year that I had to go to school.
Yes.
So they used to go to Mwalimu Sacco.
Yes.
And apply for a loan. I remember how painful it was because on many occasions, my mom had to go to Nairobi and spend the night queuing.
What?
Because in January, the queues were long. She had to spend the night, wait for tomorrow to be served, and come back. She had to fill in the forms in advance, make sure there's no mistake.
Because if there's a mistake, you start
it's
again.
More time. So she'd go for 2-3 days and come back, having applied for my school fees. And I had to wait for next couple of days before I could go to school sometimes.
For the money to check in.
The pain was immense. We moved to banks where you could now apply for a loan on your phone. Staggering change.
Amazing.
But now, that parent or that individual, all they have to do is have their phone and put together a few friends and guarantee each other. And that money is actually available on numerous platforms today. Across
Immediately.
Borders. Across borders.
Wow,
I connect you to Compound.
Profound.
I connect to Compound today. I can tell you that Aave is on $18 billion to lend today. People have deposited that money there to allow you to borrow that money. It's open, so anyone, anywhere in the world
can see.
Not just see, can borrow. Wow. Seated in Thailand, seated in Ecuador, seated in Turkana, I told you, you can borrow that money and pay it back at a very low interest. So what we're going to do is that we will allow you to bring together your friends and we will go and borrow from that liquidity for you and avail that money to you. What it does is that the money you couldn't get locally because maybe it wasn't there or you don't have access for many routes to it. Now you can access that. We ourselves are not lending. We ourselves are not a platform that does it. We are giving you access to DeFi that's already there in the world and regulated. These are regulated organizations. These are DAOs. And a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. Organizations of the future of crypto will be owned and are owned by communities.
So let's repeat that for my viewers.
Yes.
DAOs.
Yes.
Decentralized autonomous organizations.
Yes.
Let's spend a little bit of time on that.
Yes.
I'm actually ignoring the time because this is just super interesting and so important.
Yeah.
Let's delve a little bit into that. And what's the difference between these and
the other organizations?
The incumbents.
So generally when we're building tech companies,
yes,
our fintech businesses, the Riverbank solutions, they are owned through equity. Mm-hmm. So you find that the founders and a few people own most of it. And that is normally listed, if you want,
on the stock
at a stock exchange
yes,
for an IPO. In crypto, they are not called IPOs. They're called ICOs, initial coin offerings.
Yes.
And they are offered digitally to the public on the internet. No one is barred from buying them.
No one is barred from offering them.
Yes. And so the idea around crypto is to create wealth for many and for a community of people so that it's driven and thrust forward, just like the Bitcoin network.
Yes.
Is thrust forward by a community of people who all have something in it. So its growth and wealth is important for each and every one of them. And therefore you find that there's no one individual who then becomes the centralized force behind that project. And it is core around crypto to have projects driven by communities. And these communities to then vote for changes, new projects, and those kind of things because they have an interest in that organization. In fact, tokens and coins are the lifeblood of decentralized autonomous. It is through those units that communities are able to have some form of ownership in the way these organizations are driven. It is not absolute ownership.
Yes.
It is blockchain-based ownership. But once the token is maintained at a certain price and a certain values and certain properties, then everyone in that community benefits. Picture a guy who bought Bitcoin at $100. This afternoon, it's $41,000.
Absolutely.
It is in their interest to maintain the health
Absolutely.
of the Bitcoin blockchain.
Absolutely.
Picture someone who went and bought Luna. Luna is
Yes.
one of the... It's growing so fast now because they built an interesting community.
Yes.
The community is the one that drives it. They drive value for the founder and for themselves.
Correct.
Yes, the founders get to earn more because they put in more and they work
Yes,
more.
yes.
But the community
It's
takes
commensurate.
part and grows this value of this item. And I'll give you further examples, Ali. You know, you start a token and the price is $1 or $2. And within no time, because people come to it and contribute,
Yes.
it is $30. But remember, these people are also holding some of these tokens.
Correct.
So when the token's value goes up, their value goes up.
That is interesting.
It's like Elon Musk's shares in Tesla,
Correct.
because most of his wealth
Is
is held in Tesla
Is held
shares.
in Tesla.
And
yeah.
therefore, holding a token, if you do your homework well, because there are good projects and not so good projects and bad
Absolutely.
projects, then enable to do this. So then how does Swerri come in? Is that, as I told you, we are doing those things, but we are also, because we are agent banking people, we want anyone to become a crypto agent.
That is profound.
So that you can, if I have 10,000 shillings, I can give you 10,000 shillings,
Yes.
and you can give me Bitcoin
Correct.
or Ethereum or what I want at a fee.
So
Anywhere.
you are democratizing it even further. You're taking it down market.
In
completely.
Gikomba market, when I sell my clothes, I don't need to bank that money in the bank now. All I need to do is take this money, find an agent, give them the money. I buy Bitcoin today. It's likely tomorrow it will have gone down or up. If it has gone up, then I benefit from the upside. And tomorrow I can sell it back,
Correct.
get my capital, do my business. At the end of the day, I can change it again to a crypto of my choice.
Yes.
And I do it amongst ourselves and at a fee. So Swerri Master will do that in Gikomba market. And I'll be
Interesting.
back to your show when we have 1,000 agents who are doing this.
I will definitely, a year from now, God willing, we are still on this show. You'll be back here talking to us about Swerri.
But let me tell you about
Please proceed.
about Swerri and that we are the first company
Yes.
that has issued a cryptocurrency.
Huh?
We have issued a currency called the Swerri Sweat Token.
Okay.
You sweat blood. You sweat.
Yes.
And when you cut it the way we do,
Yes.
it's only because you've worked. And when you worked, there's only one way, and that way is that you will earn.
You earn a sweat token.
Earn a sweat token. So the sweat token is the currency, the utility currency that will be used on the entire Swerri
Platform.
ecosystem. And so you'll pay your fees in the sweat token.
Okay.
You'll pay your interest in
Sweat
sweat token. And you'll be able to hold it for
In sweat
value
token.
as it grows. We have issued 150 million of them. And in the next 4 years,
150 million sweat tokens.
sweat token.
Okay.
And the next 4 years, we'll begin to burn them.
What's the value of a sweat token?
Right
today?
now, it's $0.25.
$0.25. Okay.
Yes, but if you were lucky to get in the early access, you would access at 0.125
Okay.
because for every one you get one free.
Yes.
So we have issued the token. The app, if you go to the Play Store, you can download the Swerri app.
Okay.
On the Swerri app, you can actually acquire your sweat tokens,
Okay.
but you have to have another token called Matic for you to buy the Swerri token.
A sweat token.
The minimum is $100.
Yes.
And then you can decide what you want to do. So if you want to acquire Matic,
Yes.
there are several platforms, P2P platforms you can go to. Acquire your Matic, move your Matic to Swerri, and acquire some sweat tokens. Right now, you will hold the token, at least for 90 days. Because soon, in the beginning of June, we will go to what I said is called an ICO. But we are building interesting things
Already.
on the platform because you'll be able to pay, raise an invoice,
Yes.
and get paid
Yes.
in crypto.
Okay.
I've told you about Swerri Master
Correct.
agent platform, and I've talked about Swerri Circles, which is
Yes.
our main component, which is a social crypto way we are introducing that's nowhere else in the world. And that we think is what will make this valuable beyond what we're thinking. So those are the three components. We continue to build. Someone contacted me 3-4 days ago and said, we have 1 million farmers. And we'd like to pay these farmers in USDT. We are tired of going to open bank accounts, depositing this money there. And we are tired of asking these guys to go to the branch and the mobile phone. And we just want to give you USDT.
Yes.
And you can disburse this.
So USDT is the Ether version of a US dollar.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a stable coin.
It's a stable
So
coin.
in DeFi, there are cryptocurrencies called stable coins.
Correct.
Basically because they are pegged against a normal currency. I don't want to call it fiat. A normal
mirror
currency.
normal currency, yes.
So 1 USDT is always $1.
$1.
So I can give you a loan on it because I'm assured of its value next month.
It's
So they want to
So
pay.
these two worlds are already converging.
And with agents, we are whipping liquidity into crypto space.
That's interesting. Nick,
All right?
I know we can go on and on about this.
Yes.
We've already busted my time by 15 minutes.
Yes.
But this has been so interesting. We will be talking a lot more on these topics. My focus has always been financial services, tech, and all
You are
that.
number one fintech, for sure.
Thank you for the compliment, Nick. Nick, thank you so much. Today we have learned a lot. My viewers have learned a lot. I want to thank everybody for this time today. We have passed 1 hour and 1 minute, actually slightly more. So thank you for the patience, but I hope we've all learned something today. Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow us on all your favorite podcast channels. Thank you very much. Asanteni sana.